Today's section of the Haggadah takes the third pasuk, the third verse from the book of Devarim that describes the process of the Exodus in Egypt. The pasuk today describes how the Jewish people cried out to God and were heard. One of the interesting things about the pasuk is it stresses that not only did God hear our voice, ostensibly the voice of prayer, but that God also saw our suffering. And the Torah uses three different terms to express the notion of suffering and pain. And the Haggadah, again, using its typical style, analyzes and identifies each of these terms as referring to a different aspect of the suffering, referring to the breakdown in family life, to the decrees of infanticide. But most mysteriously, the last word in the pasuk, es lachatzenu, literally our pressure, it defines as tchak, which tchak also seems to be another synonym for pressure. So the commentaries in the Haggadah are forced to try to understand what exactly is being expressed here by the pressure. The Malbim suggests that the pressure refers to a process of ghettoization, that he suggests that the Jews were, as happened numerous times in Jewish history, forced into smaller and smaller and more contained areas, and that was a particular aspect of the oppression in Egypt. And that what we are saying in this passage is that we are essentially saying that part of the extreme conditions, right, was being forced into, again, the equivalent of ghettos. The Ritva, though, takes a very different approach and says that the pressure refers to a pressure to assimilate. That the Ritva believes that basically at the end of the period of Egyptian slavery, when the Egyptians saw that for all of their designs, the Jews continued to exist and in fact to multiply in slavery, that they then turn their attention to trying to corrupt the Jews. Again, this would be consistent with the Ritva's approach that we noted yesterday, noted 2 days ago, that the Jews were tzitzis in Egypt, that the Jews were not just a distinct cultural group, but a group with very specific rituals and values. And that the Egyptians saw that as the strength of the Jews. And again, perhaps expanding our model, that often we try to think about the Egyptian oppression in light of what happened in Nazi Germany, but to take a page from communist Russia as well, that the Egyptians saw that the existence of the Jews was predicated on their unique belief system, and that there was actual pressure on the Jews to adopt the idolatry of the Egyptians, which again certain texts, particularly in the book of Yechezkel, would seem to support. So according to the Ritva, what God saw was this pressure to assimilate and to adopt idolatry, and that was part of what made the crucial turning point where God intervenes to save the Jews. So again, two approaches to the issue of what the mysterious lachatz, the mysterious pressure on the Jews in Egypt. The Malbim's approach that it was the physical pressure of being confined into ghettos, and the approach of the Ritva that what we are dealing with here is a spiritual pressure to assimilate and conform to Egyptian ways, and therein to be destroyed by their Egyptian overlords.